If you're just joining us, I'm Lizzy and welcome to the Bloomberg stage here at Founders Forum. We're broadcasting live all day on Bloomberg.com and on the Bloomberg terminal. And for our final panel of the morning, we're going to welcome someone who's been described as a rising star of the Labour government. And he's also the man who's in charge of a lot of the policy that shapes a lot of what we've been talking about this morning, how the UK really can become a leader when it comes to tech in the world. I'd like to welcome to the stage the UK Secretary of State for Science, Innovation and Technology, Peter Kyle.
Thank you.
Peter, I think the stylists must have not got the memo. I'm the one in the tie, you're in your T-shirt. But it's really great to have you with me.
Thanks.
I've been at tech events.
So can I ask, you know what that is?
I don't.
This is ARIA,
okay.
Which is the body within DSIT, my department, which is very high risk, high concept, and we are supporting some really, really cutting edge innovation. So it's the most risk comfortable part of my department. In fact, in the whole of government. I'm really proud of it, and it's the kind of thing that's going to be really doing things that could fundamentally change the economy, society, and tackle massive challenges such as climate going forward, some key parts of it. And very often I'm asked to distance myself from the high-risk stuff. I want to embrace the high-risk stuff and get the public really comfortable with the fact that we're doing this kind of work. So that's why I'm very happy wearing this T-shirt and also showing that the government is meeting people on their own terms, because I see founders right across the Founders Forum who are really proud of what they are doing, and I think we should show a bit more pride in what we're doing as a government.
Bit of swagger, yeah, because it's something that I often hear about European tech firms, founders in general, that there isn't enough swagger when it comes to pitching their ideas, and maybe that's why US founders get all the money. But we can come back to that.
Okay.
Look, I've been at lots of tech events where government leaders are trying to say that their country's tech industries should be the best in the world. So I hear it a lot. I hear about billions of pounds or dollars or euros being thrown at things here and there. And even the last government was very passionate about AI, to give them their credit. I sat here with the former Deputy UK Prime Minister Oliver Dowden, who was also passionate about tech. What's different about your approach?
Great. So firstly, the thing that we have as this government, that the previous government didn't have, is economic stability and political stability, so people can plan into the long term. They know that they are coming into an economy which actually is going to have stability into the long term. And you can also see the stability of the government itself, so you're dealing and building relationships that are going to endure. We have 4 of the top 10 globally top 10 universities for research in the world. We have some of the skills to a degree that other countries simply don't have. But we also have the culture and the language, the culture of scientific endeavour that goes right the way back to some of the foundational principles of AI, for example, with Alan Turing. We have all of those cultures are being brought to bear as well. We have all the ingredients and constituent parts of Silicon Valley. What we're not doing is bringing it together in a really pointed, concerted way. The other thing that we have that people don't talk enough about is data. And that's why it's so important that we resolve this issue between the creative sector, which is the second biggest sector in our economy, and AI, which is the third largest market for AI in the world. Because data, of course, is the fuel that drives AI. And we have the skills, we've got the investment landscape, and we have the data that no other country in the world genuinely has. That's why we have the potential to be genuinely world-leading when it comes to AI and the future of the most powerful technology the world will have ever seen.
Well, so pulling you up on a couple of those points, just this morning you had the UK economy shrinking 0.3% in April, not exactly economic stability. A latest YouGov poll I saw showed that you were behind reform in the polls, not exactly political stability. You talk about all this potential. What does success look like?
Well, let's be really clear. We have stability in the policy making of this government. And yes, anybody that's coming to invest, and also the markets itself, understand that we are fixing the fundamentals. We were in decline before. We have halted the decline, although we've always known that it is going to be extremely challenging, and it will not be able to heal the challenges in our economy overnight.
Well, you've been in for a year.
We've been in for 11 months, that's quite right. And so if you talk about some of the fundamental transformation that needs to happen, you need legislation for it. The Planning Act is going to fundamentally change the ability to get one of the high growth areas that our country needs, which is construction. That Planning Act is going to take time to get through Parliament. The regulatory reform we need. I've set up the Regulatory Innovation Office. We're steaming with it, but we also need some legislative change over time. So we are doing the fundamentals, and we're getting to that point. But people will see at the moment we have the direction of travel. And when it comes to political stability, we have a landslide, solid working majority in Parliament, and we are putting that to use to change. Change is never easy. Most people in most organizations, and anyone that's led an organization through change, knows that the challenges, the fundamental challenge is that people accept the need for change, but most people think you can have change without them personally having to do anything different. And that's what we're leading the country through, and that is what we are determined to get to the other side and show that change, and change to a modern Britain, a modern economy, and a forward-facing country is what is going to deliver the prosperity that everybody desires.
But let me ask you specifically, does it matter to you if companies only grow here but list elsewhere? Because we just had the ARM CEO sat in this seat.
We know there's a problem with the LSE. We understand that the stock exchange is undercapitalised. They recognise this themselves. But look at what we're doing already. The Chancellor, from a position of opposition, supported the Mansion House reforms that were started by Jeremy Hunt, but realised they weren't going far enough. You know, we're going to be reducing the major pension funds from, I think, 25 to about 10. You know, you're going to be seeing most funds now doubling or more the size of the fund and putting the requirement that some of that capital is used directly in the British economy. So we're doing what we can do from the regulatory perspective. We're doing what we can from the policy perspective. So government is doing its bit. And now, you know, our message is very clear. This is the time to invest in
some
Britain.
people would say that that's the kiss of death, that if you mandate pension funds to allocate assets to UK companies, the idea that they need to be forced to do that just suggests that it's not really worth investing in.
Well, it shows that regulation matters. Getting regulation right and getting the right incentives in the right place is important. We do not start intervening in pension regulations lightly. We do it after a lot of thought. We do it because we need to unlock the capital, and we look at some of our competitive nations. We understand that in America, for example, the pension funds are investing to a much higher degree, sometimes 2- or 3-fold, in startups. Here, most of the investment goes into the bond markets. And of course, all of these things are important, but we also need all of the capital to be working for Britain, and that includes pensioners, because they're not getting the returns that they deserve. And some of the reason why they're not acting in this way is because the regulatory incentives are working in the opposite direction. All we're doing is giving the freedom that a lot of the people managing the funds need and they desire, because they need to deliver better for the pensioners, the people relying on pensions, as well as for the country overall.
I can tell you a lot of people in the city are absolutely livid about the idea of mandation. But what do you think is the main reason why tech companies aren't choosing to list here? Is it the regulatory piece? Is it the infrastructure issue? Or is it just risk appetite?
Well, a lot of people are choosing to list here, and we are in discussions with a lot of companies who are making these decisions now. A lot of founders that I'm talking to are already thinking about the IPO moment. You know, might be imminent. It might just be 3 or 4 years down the road. And my message is very clear: look at what we are doing. Don't just look at the rhetoric. We know that every country has a lot of rhetoric. We know that we are a government which has come in after having a succession of prime ministers that were very high on rhetoric, very low on delivery. So we are saying, judge us on what we have done. We've been in for 11 months. We have had regulatory reform, planning reform, the biggest drive in investment into renewable energy, commitment to nuclear. And yes, we are currently, according to the first quarter of this year, the fastest growing economy in the G7. But we know the latest figures are disappointing. But we will get to that growth because we are investing in the things that deliver growth into the future.
Here's something you could deliver on. Oh, sorry. You've been talking about universities, right? Donald Trump is pulling up the drawbridge on, should we get Peter a water, on foreign students. What should we be doing actively to try and poach them for UK universities? Okay, so what I'm not going to do is start poaching. What I will be doing is creating the most attractive destination for those people who are looking around the world for a home for their talent. What will be new? So we've already announced, and I announced at Tech Week this week, and we've announced in the last couple of weeks, a series of pathways into our country. So we've announced for those people with a certain amount of wealth to invest,
you'll be here, and there's a fast track to citizenship as well as residency here. There is a founder's visa now that's available, and there is a high-skilled visa available. All of these are new pathways into our country. If you are looking for somewhere to invest, to use your skills, and you are leading a, thank you very much,
thank you.
And you are leading a lab, whether it be in life sciences, whether it be in AI, whether it be in the broader tech landscape, there are no barriers to you coming to Britain and putting your skills to good use in order to invest and use what we have here, but also to invest and create the wealth and jobs here in Britain. There is no barrier to that kind of talent coming here, and I can tell you now that we have the relationships right around the world, not just in America, right around the world, and we are seeing an increasing interest in Britain right now.
Let's also talk about AI regulation. The creative industries, including Elton John, say that you're putting tech before the artists because you're rejecting all these measures that would force companies to declare when copyrighted works are being used to train AI models. We had Nick Clegg on earlier. He was saying, or he has said, that AI would die overnight if copyright laws are enforced. Do you take Sir Nick's point literally as a serious policy argument?
So we have the second largest creative market in the world. We have the third largest. So we have the third largest AI market in the world. This is something that is a strength of our country. It is not a problem, and it's always put to me in terms of a tension between the two, and which one am I going to pick?
But you are doing tech first and then artists.
No. I have pledged and I've said openly that I'm going to legislate and work towards legislation that will be about the AI sector and giving opportunities to the AI sector and reconciling the copyright issue in one piece of legislation. Both sectors need to come together and resolve this issue, and we need to move forward together. And I'm putting everything I can into doing just that. I am deeply passionate about the creative sector. And of course, I represent a constituency in the city of Brighton and Hove. We have a proud creative sector. I just believe that the tension that's come is because of an amendment on a piece of legislation that was not anything to do with copyright. I want to look at it in the round. And I want to give protections and the ability to be remunerated for small creators. People like Paulie the painter in my constituency that teaches in a school during the week, paints on the street at the weekend, sells his paintings very often via Instagram, so it is being probably scraped and used in LLMs and models around the world. I want him to be able to earn a living, as well as the likes of Paul McCartney and Elton John. And I believe it can be done, but it will require both industries to come together. The desirability of coming to Britain is clear because we have such a mature creative sector, and they will want access to that. So they will pay for it, but it has to be fair on the AI sector, just as it has to be fair on those creatives. And we can't just have analog laws in the age of AI. We have to have copyright provisions, the right to remuneration, the right to transparency, understanding what's happening to your work, and also the right to opt out of it if you choose to. All these things we can reconcile with a bit of goodwill from both, and the determination to give Britons and future generations in Britain the opportunities in both sectors that the current generation of people in those sectors are enjoying today.
The government's also in a fight with Apple over encryption. Essentially, you want Apple to create a backdoor in its most secure cloud storage systems. It's filed a legal complaint. I know that you're close with tech bosses and you consult them. Have you had a word with anyone at Apple about encryption?
So in the broad sense, yes, but not in the specific sense here, because as soon as a legal action starts, then we don't have those conversations. It goes through the legal thing.
Settling it outside the court?
In the broad sense, I can say that in all of the tech companies and conversations I have, of course, end-to-end encryption is something that we talk about because it's the duty of a government to make sure its citizens are protected, and particularly everybody would accept the need to keep children safe is of paramount importance. Now, of course, in an age of high, almost impenetrable encryption, it does pose specific challenges on how we detect the kind of sexual exploitation and extreme violence and sexual exploitation of children that we know goes on through the internet. So this is a relationship that we have with these companies, and of course there will be tension. in some of these areas, and you've seen that express itself. I'm not talking in specific terms, in general terms, but it is completely correct that government has these conversations with tech companies, and that's why having a relationship with these companies is so incredibly important.
But let me just ask you again, is there a way of settling this particular issue outside of the court?
Because the court process is going through, I can't talk about it. I'm so sorry about that, because as I hope you've seen, I'm not reticent in talking about any area of policy at all. But when it relates to a specific issue that's in the courts, I am prohibited, because I do speak on behalf of government, which is a legal participant in a legal case.
All right, Secretary of State, just before we let everybody go off for lunch, one last thing. 10 years from now, because I know that you want a whole decade in power, what has to be true for you to be saying, yes, we got it right on tech?
That it is delivering services that level up potential in every single human being in Britain. So people like me that have neurological barriers to learning, I want AI to be working with teachers and others to help us fulfill all of our potential. I want the same technology to be leveling up communities and benefiting those communities that have been left behind by previous waves of industrial change. I want those communities to be benefiting first and benefiting most and not being left behind as we move forward. And that includes who goes into the companies that create the technology in the first place. So what comes out of it is intuitive for absolutely everyone. I want technology to be there for everyone. And I think in a decade, that is entirely possible. I came into government because I believe we have agency. We have the power to shift and change. We cannot stop the tide of AI that is going to sweep the world. We do have agency in how it unfolds, how it impacts society, how it impacts our economy. And that means I have the power to try and shape how it interacts and how it is introduced into our lives. And I want to get it right, and I want to get it right for everyone. And that would be a hell of a legacy to look back on.
It's a big job you've got on your hands. Peter Kyle, Secretary of State, thanks so much for making time for us.
Thank you.